Joe, on Friday, Kayshon Boutte was arrested by the Louisiana State Police in an investigation that led into a betting scandal not at LSU, but for Kayshon Boutte while he was at LSU. Joe, it was reported on that he placed 6 bets on LSU-related football activities. One of them being, actually, 2 of them being, how do I want to say this? Betting on himself that he would have an anytime touchdown, so that he would score a touchdown at any given point during the day, and that he would have over 82.5 yards against Florida State in 2022. Joe, it was also reported that he placed over 8,900 bets, which was about 684 in a month. What do you think? And what do you? We'll talk about Kayshon Boutte here, but the bigger question is this is like the 5th guy that we've seen get popped in college from placing bets on their old programs. Like, this is becoming a little bit of a thing.
I think in the end of the day, this was going to happen no matter what. There was no control over it. You can't legalize sports gambling the way that it is starting to be soon a national thing, the way that it's been legalized, without it eventually having guys get caught doing it, betting on themselves, betting on the teams they play for, potentially being able to impact the outcome of the games that they're playing in, all that stuff. It was going to be on the table. At the end of the day, and this is going to sound really shitty, but at the end of the day, you needed someone like Kayshon to get caught, who did a terrible job of covering his tracks as poorly as he could have done.
01 was his username.
Like, what the fuck? Like, seriously, could not have tried any less to hide the fact that what he was doing was wrong. I almost wonder if he even really knew the severity of what he was doing. He had to have known. He made $500,000 off of it.
But you know what's even crazier, Joe? He never pulled it out. He only pulled out $50,000.
Right.
Which he was also hitting on an alarming, crazy rate too. I mean, the dude was winning at like 79%. Joe, he won 79% of his bets. That's ridiculous.
You know that guy who was doing there was those videos of that guy from the jail cell that was his girlfriend or something was recording him. That's going to be Kayshon.
Eagles.
That's gonna be Kayshon Boutte in
I don't think
in a year.
Seeing jail time.
Yeah, I don't know how that whole thing's going to work out. But the whole point is somebody needed to get popped for doing it at an egregious level to set the precedent to everybody out there that had considered doing it, to realize, oh shit, I probably need to be a little more careful and also not gamble while I'm still playing. You weren't playing at a time when it was starting to get legalized. I was. I had a couple of guys on my team that pre-game, we'd be eating a pregame meal, would sit there and frickin' do it. Not important people, would not bet on our own team, but would bet on college football games and would ask me my opinion, and I wouldn't give them any. My whole point is that this shit is starting to become a thing, and I think it'll end and phase out eventually if enough people get popped for it.
If they're betting on their own different games, does it really matter? I mean,
if they're betting on the NFL, it doesn't matter.
But let me ask this question. What does it matter if they're betting on other games, like in college football?
Because they've got buddies that play at schools all over the country. One of them can text one of their friends.
Fair.
The injury stuff is not national public knowledge. One of them could text their buddy, hey, starting left tackle's out. Like, it's that easy. That's why that shouldn't be allowed. And also the NFL thing.
Vegas are doing that with staffs all across the country?
Well, they're trying to do. They try to do that, and that stuff doesn't get as covered as much. But that's the whole point. You can't allow any of this.
I understand what you're saying. I was just kind of trying to test you a little. I mean, I agree not betting. Like, if you play in the NFL, you're playing college football, not placing those bets. But here's the thing, though, too. Okay, it's gambling.
Yeah.
So if Vegas can find it out, why can't Kayshon? That's my only thing. So you're placing a wager with a business, okay? Like, hey, I bet you this outcome is going to happen, all right? So what if I know something that they don't? Are they going to do this to media afterwards? because I know more things on LSU than they can even fathom. I know more things going on in the SEC than they could ever fathom. So
that's such a deeper, more complicated issue that eventually I think that bag's going to get opened up. I mean, we could probably spend hours debating that, but I understand what you're saying.
Okay.
Just inherently though, Kayshon has an inherent advantage, but it's also super effed up the fact that he was betting on himself.
Well, here's the question. So I sent you this clip. I got now, I think it's at 90,000 views, okay, about me talking about this. I'm assuming a lot of people have seen it. I'll give a quick little reference. He plays 6 bets on LSU. I know of 2 of them, or technically 1 because it was in a parlay. I know about 1 of the bets. What about the other 5? Because, Joe, LSU led the SEC in drops last year in 2022. You know who led the SEC in drops?
Kayshon.
Want to take a guess? It was Kayshon Boutte. Okay. I know the year before, I know that you got injured and you were out, and he kind of went through a depression phase. And I do think a big thing for him was that he got depressed. He kind of went all the way down the hill. I mean, Joe, where did he get the money? It looks like he got the money from NIL because LSU's collective and the people that he was been involved with in Baton Rouge. But the bottom line comes down to, Joe, what were the other 5? And why didn't you report on them? And why didn't you put them in the warrant? Let me tell you why. Because you found Louisiana State Police was the one that arrested LSU, and they don't want the outrage. I think they want to arrest him. They have an agreement with FanDuel that FanDuel's going to keep his earnings and winnings, and they're going to keep his money. Okay. Now I do think, that there's they're going to shut it down with him, but I think they want to get him in there, get his court date, keep it hush hush, and let it be over with. I think that's exactly how FanDuel wants to do it. I think that's exactly how Louisiana State Police and LSU want to do it. Let me tell you why. Joe, he won $500,000 and FanDuel didn't catch him. It's just as big a smear on their face as anybody else.
Yeah.
How can you not see that Kayshon Boutte has won 500? Joe, if somebody is winning at that high of a rate, somebody at FanDuel has to know the people that have $500,000, okay, in an account. Here's another thing. Joe, when he put into FanDuel, okay, to start placing bets, he deposited $132,000. $130,000.
Yeah, that's not normal.
That's not normal.
That's a different category.
Flags. So not only did you miss it when he came in, because technically the credit card was in his mom's name, how the hell did you miss it when it said Kayshon Boutte 01? How can you not look at that from the beginning? That is the most crazy thing to me. I think everybody wants this to go underneath the rug so that everybody just does this. Okay? But let me tell you this, though. I think that this shows, I think the NCAA is going to look into it. I don't think from an LSU perspective. I think from a Kayshon Boutte perspective. But the NCAA, what can they do? What can they do to LSU? Joe, because here's the thing. It's not as if LSU wasn't trying to win last year. They won the SEC West. I don't think that there was some big-ass conspiracy theory in reference to other players in that locker room doing it. You mentioned about something earlier. What I think comes down to is Kayshon got hurt. He started getting depressed. He was doing a lot of crazy things because of NIL and making money. And quite honestly, and I mean pun intended, he fumbled the bag. He 100% fumbled the bag. Joe, let me tell you something right now. This is another question we got to start asking ourselves about NIL. Dog, he deposited $132,000 into a FanDuel account. How much are all these other dudes making?
I mean, I've kind of heard some crazy things from some people that I've talked to that, like a former Pac-12 player that I know of was, I heard an indirect connection of somebody who knows this person, is close with this person, was telling me that they were making like 600 starting offensive lineman in the Pac-12, or it was making 600.
Joe, you know that Caleb Williams has made over $2 million. I wonder what Jaden Daniels made. Now, Jaden, believe it or not, is not that kind of kid. Maybe it's not as much as like Kayshon Boutte did.
I mean, he had a Beats sponsorship. I'm sure that
Well,
paid
and
pretty nicely.
I think Gatorade, like he got, remember Gatorade did the big, or Powerade did those big things with the players. Kayshon, let me just tell you something, as someone who covers the team, and look, I'm going to get killed for this. He's an idiot for doing this.
Yes, I mean, there's no other way to
no other way
stretch
for me to come out and say it. Now, I won't say that on AYS. I'm sure some LSU fans will see it on here and run with it. He's an idiot. You cannot do that. All right, like that is below. That is, Joe. That is insanity to me. Joe, me and you place bets, right? I mean, maybe not a lot, maybe 1 or 2 or 3, 4 a month, maybe. All right. Joe, this dude was betting 684 times a month. Again.
Well, that's where the absurdity of it is that he's spending all of this money.
How?
That's what, again, you keep bringing this up. Where does FanDuel play into this, and why was there not quicker action taken? And I don't know if that they have to just pass this on to some sort of criminal division that's responsible for tracking this stuff.
They gave it to the state police instead of giving it to the FBI, instead of giving it to, what any other DOJ, whoever. They gave it to the state police,
which is weird. I think you're right. I think that they don't want any connection to this either.
Hell no. They dropped the news on a Friday. Louisiana State Police, I guarantee you, is going to get a hefty check from FanDuel from a compensation package to something. Watch, it's going to happen. It's going to come from one LLC or another. Okay. They dropped it on a Friday. They arrested him on a Friday. Why do you think that is? Joe,
they don't want it to be. This got brushed under as quickly as it could have.
Let me say this: I have an extensive background in law, specifically in how law enforcement works. Extensive, over a decade's worth. I know exactly what they did.
Yeah,
read between the lines of what I'm trying to say here. They want all this to be swept under, and what's the problem is, when the NCAA comes and starts sniffing, then what? Because they're not going to give over anything to the NCAA, meaning the Louisiana State Police. They're not going to do it. LSU said, we're an open door. We're an open book. You know what else is interesting, Joe? Brian Kelly in the beginning of the year said that he's going to give an injury report each week to have transparency. Well, now you know why he had or wanted to have transparency.
I wonder how many more teams. I think that's actually the next eventual thing that happens.
Make an injury report every week.
Yeah, I think the NCAA or the conferences are going to require it, because at the end of the day, I think the next phase in money being funneled into college sports is eventually conferences signing sports book deals. And I think that there's probably going to be some sort of a transparency deal that has to come into play there. As you're talking about, there is going to need to start being injury reports that happen. So yeah, I think that's the next wave, man. I really do. I really do. I think Brian Kelly's clearly getting ahead of it deliberately.
Well, he had to. And look, people want to know, Joe, why people at LSU take up for Brian Kelly the way that they do. It's because Ed Orgeron left this place after 2019 in these types of ruins. This is the kind of cancer that he had.
Yeah.
This is the stuff that he let just go rampant because he was having his own issues. So you want to know the truth of why LSU fans are backing up Brian Kelly right now and why it's taking more time than people realize that it is. This isn't typical LSU. He's having to rebuild something that was quite honestly on the brink of something awesome that Ed just cracked the bet on. He liked big titty blondes over winning national titles. Good on him. I mean, if that's his preference, but that's just what happened. Joe, this is a national problem, though. This isn't the first kid that got popped doing this. He was just the one that did it.
Well, he is the one who has done it the worst. And the Iowa State stuff, which we haven't even really talked about.
Well, they bet on their team to lose, and they did lose by 3. That's
that whole investigation, though, is kind of going to be squashed because the person investigating, I'm sure you saw all this stuff, he obtained that information without he didn't do it legally. So that thing's going to end up getting squashed, and those kids are probably going to walk free. But
No, because the feds can pick it up. State might not be able to pick it up, but the feds can.
True. That's true.
So, but you know what? The feds don't want nothing to do with it either.